to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I am joined today by Robert Hornby, partner, chair of equipment finance at CSG Law, and Chad Sluss, executive director, and is it CEO too, Chad? I want to make sure I get your name.
The title change.
Yeah. CEO of NEFA. So thank you for joining me, gentlemen. And we are here today to discuss all things NEFA. So I'm just going to kind of kick it off with you, Chad. Just if you don't mind just doing a quick intro, and then we'll go into Robert, and then we'll start the chat.
Great. Thanks, Jesse. Appreciate you having us again. So Chad Sluss, CEO with NEFA. I've been with the organization going on 3.5 years now. So it's went by quickly. I was one of those crazy people that joined the organization during the pandemic and made the transition over, and it's been great. So I'm fortunate to have some great volunteers, including Robert, who's on the call with us.
Perfect. Robert?
Jesse, thanks for having us. We appreciate it. We appreciate the opportunity. As Jesse said, I'm Robert Hornby. I'm from the law firm of CSG Law. Used to be Chiesa, Shahinian, and John Tomasi. Like I was telling Jesse, the most New Jersey, New York law firm you could get. But, you know, I think it's important. You know, I've been on the NEFA board for a while now, and I'm honored to be president. We're going to get into that a little bit. But, you know, I think it's important from the outset to point out, you know, I'm a service provider. And I think that says a lot that NEFA is really allowing service providers or brokers or funding sources, no matter what you are, you're part of this community. And, you know, that's a lot about what we're going to talk about today. Me being a service provider and me being president says a lot about where this organization is and where it's going to go in the future.
Perfect. Thank you, Robert. So Chad, just to kind of kick off here, let's recap 2023, if you don't mind. You just want to talk about membership, events, kind of where you guys ended the year.
Sure. So the association had a phenomenal year last year. We ended the year with 402 member companies. That included 84 new members that joined the association, with the vast majority being 42 brokers. We had about 20 funding sources, and the balance were service providers. So pretty good mix. We had a 50 new broker and 75 new member goal. So we came up a little bit short on our broker segment for our campaign, but I think we surpassed our overall goal for the year. So yeah, phenomenal year. Very engaged members. Excuse me. We had over 1,500 members and non-members participate in our events last year. That included just shy of 400 for the Finance Summit in San Diego, 350 in San Antonio for our funding symposium. We had 375 collectively join us at 8 regional events throughout the country, and about 400 or so join us for virtual programs that we held throughout the year. So very engaged. We were happy with those numbers, very participatory, and we've seen an uptick in our volunteers for committees and different groups that we've organized as well. I think that'll continue in the future.
Perfect. And then from an attrition perspective, based on everything going on, I know we don't want anyone once you're an NEFA member. It's, you know, like the mafia. We always want you to come back. So
yeah, we had so yeah, we ended up the year with 85 or 86% retention. So pretty solid. If you look at national statistics for associations, if you're 75 to 80%, you're doing well as a national association. So we've been above that mark for some time. We hope to get to 90. And I think some of the initiatives that we've put together in our 3-year strategic plan, I think will help us get there. And we'll see what this economy does. I mean, we're anticipating some attrition this year, just with people trying to cut some costs. But generally what we see is those people leave for a year or two, and then they'll circle back once the resources are available.
Sure. All right.
Jesse, one quick thing. I think that Chad had mentioned on these regional events, I think we saw an uptick in participation. You know, we're going to talk about that's one of our goals in the future, but I think the diversity and the people that we get going there is important because, you know, Chad and I went out to Minnesota last year to the Lake Minnetonka event, and we did a credit seminar. You know, we were in the audience, and the audience around us was much, much younger than the two of us. I would say we brought it down maybe 20 years. But I think that's important. I think reaching down into organizations and reaching out to younger people is going to be important for the growth and vitality of NEFA in the future.
Perfect. No, absolutely. Um, so Robert, what does being president of NEFA, mean to you?
Well, first, Jesse, it's a great honor that I'm able to be president. I think I've had the good fortune of really having great people on the board with me. And, when I stepped onto the board, there was still a transition phase going on. And I got to tell you, the board really didn't know exactly the role of the board in the association at the time. And, fortunately, we've had excellent leadership and really active board members when I've been on. So, this is sort of the culmination of me being on the board for many years and being able to work and learn from these, what I would consider great partners and great people within the industry. And as I was saying earlier, as a service provider, being a representative of service providers on the board, it's important to really understand that, you look across the table, you see broker lessors, you see funding sources, you see other service providers, and we're all rowing in the same direction. So, as president, I've, had the good fortune of everybody has been going in the same direction. So I want to keep that momentum going and really want to keep the growth going of the organization, not only from, just adding members, but adding the right members, of course, and adding the things that we need to help, enhance the membership. And, Chad and I talk about this all the time, but, the strategic plan, Adam Peterson worked tirelessly last year to really develop a strategic plan for going forward, looking 3 years and beyond in the future for NEFA. And he worked with past presidents, he worked with hundreds and hundreds of NEFA members to come up with a strategic plan that everybody was comfortable with. And, of course, he just then handed it to me and said, you implement it, right? Of course. But, so that's the problem now. And it's a great problem to have, which is we have a guide and we can talk about the specifics of the strategic plan. And I'd encourage anybody watching this to go and read and look at the executive summary, because the amount of work that Chad put into it, that Adam put into it, that all these past presidents put into it is amazing. And it really provides specific directions about what we're going to do this year and next year and the year beyond. And I understand, I'm just the first step in that. And, my goal this year is to really ensure that we don't lose that momentum, that we go forward with it, that we start really looking at, and we've already started, by the way, we've already had many, many meetings on this about how really to make sure that what was outlined in the strategic plan is really brought to the membership. And so we can get into that. Chad, if you'd like me to get into the goals, we can here. And Jesse, I don't want to certainly interrupt you in the interview or anything, but to me, I get excited when I see the strategic plan, because it really, it was a culmination of years, of people wanting to speak out and getting involved, and then laying it out in a way that I think makes sense. And it's an exciting sort of year, I think, to step off with this economy notwithstanding. I think we're going to have a great year, and I think we're going to see bigger and better things, not only at events, but at regional events and everything else. So I will stop talking. I'll not be the lawyer in the room for a minute. I'm sure we'll get back to it.
Hey, now, you're fine, man. This is your platform. I'm just trying not to mess anything up.
Never.
So Chad, 402, is that what you said we ended at?
Yes.
So what is I guess what's the goal for 2024?
I think well, I just had a meeting with Hannah yesterday morning.
Not to put you on the spot with Robert here or anything.
No. I think economy withstanding and some adjustments there. I think if we have net growth of 30, maybe 40 companies and end in the 430, 440 range, I think that's a realistic goal. We're actually kicking around an idea of having a 500 by the end of 25 campaign that we're going to launch, which I think is realistic with all these new initiatives that we're deploying through the strategic plan. My staff, I have a great staff that's in place. It's been a process to get all the right people in the right seats over the last few years. And I think I have my team in place. We're actually starting interviews next week for a manager of education position. So that should be one of our final hires, at least for a couple of years. And then, beyond that, we're just going to be ready to really scale the association. the last couple of years, we've had to do some operational updates, put new systems in place, get the staff in place, sort of find our way as far as not reinventing NEFA per se, but taking a step back and looking at what the members really wanted and coming up with some new initiatives that really went to what the members were asking for. And I think we had a really good foundation with Jerry Egan and Mike Taglia leading this organization before my time, and
Sure.
built up our reserves. I mean, we're financially secure, which is great. So now our board is willing to spend resources, and we're willing to have years that we don't put any resources into reserves. We're willing to reinvest back into the membership, and we're doing that with some of the expenditures over the last few years and what we're looking to do in the future.
Well, and congrats on that, because I don't know, I think I was on the board 2 years after the merger, and that was one of those big things where it was like reserves. So it's
Sure.
a great spot to be in. So congrats. So three and a half years in, Chad, any regrets?
No, actually,
what
this has
are your
been-
thoughts on the equipment finance? You're still here, so you can't leave.
it's a hidden gem out there, this industry. I knew nothing about it before I came in, and learned about it during the interview process, obviously. And now I'm still drinking from a fire hydrant. I'm still trying to learn everything and walk in the shoes of my members and understand how all these things work together, because I'm not from the industry. So what my skill set is managing associations and managing large groups of people to move them in the right direction, or a collective direction, not the right direction, but a collective sort of community and moving things forward. So no, I've enjoyed it. I've said this before, I'm in my early 50s. I could see myself retiring from NEFA in 15 or 20 years.
Perfect.
So I really like the group.
Sorry to put you on the spot. I just
It's all good.
had to ask a question. I mean, you mentioned the word you were drinking from a fire hose. I was like, hey, he's drinking, so still loves equipment finance.
Right? Exactly.
So gentlemen, let's get into some of these initiatives, if you don't mind. Whoever wants to take it, feel free to. But obviously, I'm excited just in having conversations with you in the past, Chad, and I know you guys are both showing that enthusiasm. So let's talk about those.
Yeah, so I'll just start with a sort of general summary of what, came out of the strategic plan. I don't think anybody's going to be really surprised about what everybody's looking for, and I think we're able to hone in on them. I think the four biggest things are obviously community, education, events, and resources. And really, looking at the overall, summary, the executive summary, and what we're looking for, the membership's looking for more opportunities to connect. And I think, Jesse, I mean, this organization is more like family, right? Than a lot of organizations. There's a lot more hugging than handshakes, I think, when you go to these conferences. And so we understand that the membership wants to continue to have other opportunities to connect, more so than maybe just twice a year at conferences. So we have some regional events, etc. Education. I mean, that is one of we heard it over and over again. It is imperative, I think, that we deliver on education, not only in the sense of really specific industry education, what's going on with 1071, what's going on with disclosures. Everybody needs to know that. But we also need to, education, a component of education is really, knowledge-based education, talking to what I'll consider to be the experts in the area, the other CEOs, the other managers, whatever it is, getting together in a room, whether it's actual or virtual, and we hope in this organization it's always actual, right? And discussing, hey, what's going on in your business? What trends do you see? What can we do to implement here? It's a best practices type of scenario. That's education too, and we get it. And Chad's going to talk in a minute about what we've lined up for some of these regional events, which is really exciting, because I think one of the key things to do here is education doesn't just have to be at conferences when you're sitting in a breakout session, right?
Sure.
Education doesn't have to be just webinars. We can use those regional events where people are getting together to network in order to deliver education. And the key there is that you're not just delivering education to those who can travel to conferences. Because I think we all understand that, particularly in larger organizations, maybe it's just the C-suite people that could go to the conferences, right? There are either younger or people with maybe that have to stay back home because they're doing the work, right? So the regional events gives those people, as well as the C-suite and everybody else, an opportunity not only to go network locally, but also to get some education directly, one-on-one. So I think it's really exciting. And like I said, Chad's going to give us some specifics on that. And then, the final component of sort of those four things is sort of tools and resources, right? We need to put more stuff, and we've continued to do this on the website. What tools, what toolbox can you have? What do you need to know about disclosures? You can go to the website and use NEFA as a resource, because as you know, you may go to a conference and hear a seminar and say, oh, it's in the back of my mind. But then when you really need it, where can you get the information? So we want to be a knowledge base, and have a website and not only have that, but obviously through Newsline and through the offerings that with Tidbit Tuesdays, etc., we can get the knowledge out there and then put it on our website so it's available for everybody when you need it on demand. So Chad, I'll just throw it over to you because I know you have some really exciting specifics that you're going to talk about coming up for these education resources.
Sure. Thanks, Robert. So before I get into that, one thing that came out of our focus group process this past early spring through the summer was we posed the question, would you like to have a mid-year conference? We asked that of all the different focus groups, and everyone resoundingly said, no, we don't want to go to another conference. So, and we said, instead, would you prefer to see NEFA offer more educational offerings at regional events? Because that's more cost effective. Would that be of interest? And everyone said, yes, that's a better use of our resources. We can send our junior team members, our mid-level managers that may not be able to get out of the office to go to conferences. We'll send them to those events. So you'll hear from me in just a moment. We have two conferences planned this year, one in March in Huntington Beach. That's the 25th through the 27th, Finance Summit. We're going to be switching the name to probably Spring Conference and Fall Annual Conference, just because it's an old naming convention that's been around forever.
I don't even know what they mean, so we're just going to get rid of them.
Right. So we're going to be making that change. So just so everyone understands, the Fall Conference, which is formerly the Funding Symposium, that's November 11th through 13th in Indianapolis. And then we have 8 regional events lined up. One later this month in Minneapolis, our ice fishing event. We are evaluating whether or not we may move that date because there's been a really warm, unseasonably warm weather in the Midwest, and there's no ice forming in Minnesota.
Just we can do something. We can just go to Lord Fletcher's for the afternoon and play broom ball and drink. Okay, I think right. the people would rather just do that.
Yeah. So I mean, we're open. We're looking at options, and if we can't move it to February, we might just abandon the idea of ice fishing and just have a get together. So we'll figure that out. But regardless, we have something planned in January, maybe February. What we do, NEFA has a number of regional groups set up, or regions, I should say. So we try and put at least one event in each region. So April 11th is South Central in Texas. May 2nd, we're going to Atlanta, which we haven't been in a number of years in the Southeast region. Northeast will be our annual crab feast in Baltimore, June 20. Then July, we're still working out some dates, but we're going to go to the Angels baseball game out in California in Anaheim. And then we'll have a Midwest event in Minnesota. We'll likely do, I think it's Britt's Pub or in downtown Minneapolis. Yeah. So
great place.
Yeah, it's a fun rooftop bar. So that'll be a good time. And then August, we're going to do something in Seattle for our Northwest region. And then the Midwest, we're looking at Kansas City, possibly a Royals game. So we're still working through some of those details. But yeah, those are the events. And then we have a number of virtual programs lined up. We have virtual wine tasting coming up soon, later this month. We have our fourth or sixth segment on credit. I think it's our fourth. And that'll be presented later this month. And then we'll have other virtual webinars. We have something new that launched that came out of our focus group process, which is our knowledge exchange program, where we're going to get together with members that are focused on one area of the equipment finance and leasing business. So operations, credit, collections, marketing, sales, those are kind of all lined up. And I believe it's the 3rd Tuesday of the month at 2 Eastern. It's all out on our website. But we're just putting those together as virtual roundtables. for people to get together, and we'll have some facilitators that'll facilitate the discussions. So that's all education. Like I said earlier, we're in the process. Hopefully by the end of Q1, we'll have a manager of education hired as well. So that's kind of the overarching events, virtual programs, regional events. I imagine we may do something in New York City. We haven't finalized that yet, but I know our Northeast Corridor members like to do something, a meetup in New York in the late fall. So that's potentially on the horizon. We'll see.
Well, that's a full plate for sure, but you're giving the community what they want, and that's more face-to-face contact. So it's great.
Exactly. And we're going to be pushing out soon, later this month. We're trying to clean up our database, like every organization does. I mean, when you have people that transition and move from one organization to another, but sure. I think we probably have 30 to 40% of our actual contacts at our member companies in our database. There's some room for improvement. I would guess between 400 companies out in the space, there's probably at least 4,000 or 5,000 individuals that work for those companies. And we don't have that many contacts in our database. So we're going to be pushing out a notice to our main contacts at each of our member companies, requesting that they update our list completely so that we can send appropriate marketing notices to people that may not be able to go to a regional event or an in-person event, but maybe they'd be interested in one of these virtual programs.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm going to ask both of you this question, if you don't mind. If there's people that aren't NEFA members and they're watching this, why should they become NEFA members?
Chad, you want me to start?
Sure.
I think if, particularly, obviously, you mean people in the industry, I don't think there is any organization quite like us. I think the way that the community melds together along with the resources and education, I'd be hard pressed to say any organization can really top us. I know that Chad likes to say this, but it's whether you call it frenemies or what do you
co-opetition.
Co-opetition, right? That's what we have here, which is we have obviously there's competitors of mine that are in NEFA that I consider really great friends, and that we refer each other cases, we refer each other clients, we share knowledge, and I think that's the key really to NEFA is the sharing, whether it's sharing friendship or sharing education or whatever it might be. I think there's an openness here. It's not a Shark Tank. It is really a place where you can go, you can be yourself as a human being, and you can meet what I would consider, great friends. But you can also go there and, ask the dumb question that you feel, oh man, I don't know how to do this. There are people in the organization that I am happy to point you to, that Chad is happy to point you to, Jesse, that that can always answer that question, right? There's somebody there that's been there a long time or is a specialist in this area. They can get you answers. So I think you come to NEFA really to not only be part of the community, but to really get your questions answered, to feel comfortable within this industry, and I think, new members, an exciting thing to me about the organization and the direction it's going now is the participation level. You get out of NEFA what you put into it, and we're putting in a lot of opportunities. We're asking members to join committees. And I know in the past, some committees, they've sat there and there've been one person on the committee, or it's not been very active. Our committee structure now is, really full of active members that want to participate and share ideas. And we're listening to it because I think it helps all of us. So, if you want to come be a part of it, you can immediately get in, join a committee, join a subcommittee. Get involved in a specific initiative, whether it's collections or whether it's operations, like Chad was saying. You can be right in the mix of where you need to be and get something out of it from day one. So I think as a new member, think about what you want, but you can come find it here if you don't know exactly what you want, because I think we have the resources and the manpower, woman power to help out.
Yeah,
well said,
I think that's a good summary. I
don't know how you follow that.
I know. I'm like, all right, well, I think
I said you could go first.
Yeah, I teed him up. So I think I would only add that NEFA has a phenomenal platform that people can take advantage of all these different initiatives. If you don't want to travel, you don't want to leave if you don't want to leave your community, your individual community where you reside because you have family obligations or whatever, there's enough opportunities for you to get out of this organization from your desktop. So I think if you're new to the equipment finance and leasing space, there's plenty of people that will give you direction and support. We're going to be building out more curriculums based upon level of experience all the way up to expert level. So that's coming down the pike once we get this person hired. So that's a future initiative for us that's already sort of part of our playbook and where we want to go as an association. So, and to build out our resource library more than anything else, just so people can, tap into the website or the members only area, take advantage of those resources, watch webinars or education at a glance on their own during, they're watching Shark Tank at night. They can have that going in the background and learn a little bit while they don't have to take away from their time in the office. So, I mean, that's our long-term goal, is to just be the go-to source for our segment within the industry for people to get educated, get connected, and grow professionally.
And Chad and I talk every day, and rest assured that we're looking not only to enhance the membership experience, whether you go to a conference or what it is, but to help it enhance your business, right? I mean, we think about how do we help each member segment, and we had a really great concentration this last year, and it's going to continue, of course, of really attracting brokers, right? The 42 out of the 84, more than half were brokers. And we understand that we need, in order to attract brokers who are out there busting their humps every day, we got to make it worth their while to come to the conferences, right? So we are looking at education specifically for brokers to attract them, to get them here. And one last thing that just touch on that I think is important about these regional events, if you haven't gone, adding the education component is just not throwing in a segment, right? Like just a discussion point. We actually went out and got, professionals to do, we're not sure which one it's going to be at yet. So, but we have a couple different ones teed up. We're going to have a half a day of sales training at one of these, right? Specific training. Then we're going to have, some industry experts. I don't know if you want Chad to let the cat out of the bag yet, but we got some industry experts coming in, right? And to really provide top shelf, top level training so that it's not just a bunch of talking heads out there. You can get something out of it. We want to make it worth your while. And I think that is key, is that if you come to these events, you can walk away with at least one thing that's going to help you and help your business.
Yeah, I'll share the names. I think it's good for people to know. RJ Grimshaw, who has been the president of Unify out of Michigan here, where I reside. He started his own consultancy, and he's going to come in and do a half-day program for us at one of the regional events. And then Scott Wheeler, who is an industry veteran, been out consulting all over the country for many, many years. He's going to come in and do 2 regional events for us. And then we have partnered with Sudhir Amabal and Bob Rinaldi to do a 4-part webinar series that sort of gives an overview of the industry and helps really newer equipment finance and leasing professionals understand the industry through that 4-part series. And if we think if that's well received by the membership, we might have them help us with some additional segments in the future. So trying to just build up our resource library, offer value at the regional level. We're in discussions at our conference planning committee with bringing in a very reputable, well-known Olympic athlete potentially for our keynote presentation in March. So more to come on that if we're able to secure that person, and that'll be part of our launch. But we're really trying to raise the bar on the education you receive, both from within the industry, but also maybe some resources and learning from people outside of the industry, which I think is helpful.
No, and kudos to you guys for kind of switching it up a little bit, because typically it's like you go to these conferences and it's like the same people discussing the same thing. Yep. It's like rinse, repeat. And I've noticed just on the last few conferences, I don't know, maybe the last 4 to 6, you guys are switching that up a little bit. So it's good, refreshing.
Trying to make it fresh. And, we have a conference enhancement and regional committee. Their sole purpose is to look at how do we enhance our events to make them better for our members? How do we create more networking opportunities so people can actually make those business connections? Because everyone has ROI goals, and their superiors ask, "What are you getting out of this conference? Why are you spending $3,000 with travel to go?" Well, we need to help enhance that.
As a party of one, I ask myself that question all the time now. It's not somebody else's budget, it's my own. It's like, what do I do?
Right. Right.
All right. Well, I guess we'll end this with a little fun here. So, being that this was our second Fireside of 2024, any New Year's resolutions you guys want to share?
Chad, you're first this time.
All right.
Now, please keep in mind that this is recorded, so
Right.
we gotta.
Well, classic. Need to cut a little weight. It's normal. I think most people have that resolution. But really, I'm from a business standpoint, I'm very excited about NEFA and our future. So I guess one of my own personal goals is to accomplish everything within the strategic plan that we have outlined for year one and then some. And then we're going to go through a process this summer of asking our members to join some focus groups just to have a little reset with us and make sure we're on track with what they've asked for. And then we can have some adjustments to the plan in the future. So I guess I'm answering that in two parts, but personal and professional.
All right. For me personal, it's obviously spend more time with family. And I think, and Jesse, I owe you. I really do need to get out to more EF Cares events. It's one thing I love. Just you've done a wonderful and phenomenal job. I really do want to get out and maybe get out to the links with you guys this year. But at least one or two I'm going to get to this year. So that's sort of my personal goal. My professional goal from a NEFA standpoint is I want to see growth, and I want to see growth in the right direction as far as membership growing, hopefully brokers, and really getting this so that we can sustain this through the future. It's funny when we talk about the equipment finance industry, the amount of members that we have compared to the amount of companies out there is minuscule, right? We're just barely scratching the surface. So
Sure.
If we can get the right people to come in, I'd love to see that 400 number, Chad, go way, way up if we can. If we get the right people, that's the
Sorry, Chad. Sorry, Chad.
Exactly.
It's all good.
And I would be happy. So, I'd love to add like 100 new members. That would be a great goal for the new year.
One other thing I forgot to mention earlier is NEFA is in the process of setting up a 501c3. And this will be an umbrella organization that ties together the Chris Walker Education Fund, which has been around for many years, and our philanthropy committee. And I think this could directly impact Equipment Finance Cares and what Jesse does, because once this organization's in place, I think Chris Walker has been giving money to different organizations out in the industry for a number of years that help support the industry, that help with education and different resources. I think what you're doing, Jesse, with your organization, I think aligns with those goals. And I think, again, there's opportunities as I look at it for some synergies. And we've been partnering for the last couple of years with some of our joint events. I think there's more that we might be able to do long-term as well.
Yeah, and we'll probably should circle up on the educational side of it too, because we get like 50 to 70 people at each one of our events. Might as well maximize people's time. So
exactly.
Well, excellent, fellas. Well, I really appreciate your time today. Chad, hopefully I'll be seeing you in 3 weeks. Robert, probably end of March, man.
I'm going to make more. I'm telling you. I'm going to make a concerted effort. I'm going to get out there and see you. I want to get out to Arizona, my home state.
Yeah, I mean, the next event's going to be at Blue Street on Tuesday the 20th. But that means you have to come to California like back-to-back months. It's not really a quick flight, but
not a horrible thing.
Worst places to be, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Right, exactly.
All right, guys.
Better than New Jersey and better than Michigan.
I'm not saying anything, but yeah, a little biased. All right, guys. Well, I really appreciate your time today. Thanks again. Excited for NEFA in 2024. Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse.
Jesse.